Grace's mansion stood tall at the edge of the city, its white walls glowing beneath the African sun. It was the kind of house that commanded respect without asking for it. Neighbors spoke of her wealth in hushed admiration. But inside those walls, something softer echoed louder than luxury. Loneliness. Grace once ruled boardrooms and charity galas with effortless grace. Her late husband had built the empire, but she preserved it with wisdom and discipline. Their children grew up surrounded by privilege and promise. Now, each one carried her surname like a badge of honor, but rarely like a responsibility.
Darling, we built all this for them, but they rarely visit home.
Tell her I'll visit soon. I've just been busy.
Daniel, the eldest son, was a respected businessman. His suits were sharp, his voice confident, his calendar always full. He spoke proudly of family values at corporate dinners. But months could pass before he stepped inside his mother's gate. Anita, the only daughter, ran a luxury fashion brand. Social media adored her elegance. She posted filtered smiles and captions about cherishing family. Yet her mother's calls often went unanswered.
I'll call her later. Maybe tomorrow. My schedules have been tight.
Michael, the youngest, lived abroad most of the year. He sent expensive gifts and foreign chocolates every Christmas. Grace displayed them proudly, even after they expired. She never mentioned that she preferred hugs to parcels. Money arrived regularly. Transfers were punctual. Bank alerts blinked faithfully on Grace's phone. But the chairs at her dining table remained empty. There was only one constant presence in the house. Rose. Quiet. Observant. Invisible to visitors but indispensable to Grace. Rose was not family by blood. She arrived years ago as a housemaid, barely 20. She stayed long enough to understand the rhythm of Grace's breathing. Long enough to notice when that rhythm changed.
You've grown into a fine young woman, Rose.
You raised me too, Mama. I'm glad I met you.
At night, when the city lights flickered in the distance, Rose checked the doors twice. She warmed milk the way Grace liked it. She stayed awake longer than required. Not because she was paid to, but because she worried.
Are you comfortable, Mama Grace?
Yes, because you're here.
The children believed their mother was fine. After all, she lived in luxury. She had staff. She had money. She had comfort. They never asked if she had company. Grace's laughter had grown softer with age. It no longer filled rooms. It lingered briefly, then faded into quiet. Rose noticed the tremor in Grace's hands before anyone else did. She noticed the shorter walks, the longer naps, the way Grace sometimes forgot mid-sentence.
Mama Grace, should I call Daniel?
No, he's busy, don't bother him.
Grace defended her children even when they were absent. She carried their excuses gently, like fragile glass. A mother's heart does not demand proof. It manufactures hope.
They love me. They just have responsibilities, I understand.
I agree if you believe so, Mama.
Sunday lunches used to be noisy. Plates clattered, laughter overlapped, grandchildren ran through hallways. Now Sundays felt like abandoned promises.
Mama, you've told me that one before.
Then listen again.
Rose learned the stories by heart. How Grace met her husband, how Daniel once cried on his first day of school, how Anita hated braids as a child. The children did not know these stories were being retold in their absence.
Time moves faster when you wait alone.
One evening, Grace watched the sunset longer than usual. The sky burned orange, then purple. Something about it made her quiet. Rose stood behind her silently, not interrupting the moment. She had learned that silence can be louder than comfort, and sometimes more necessary.
Mama, would you like to go inside?
Not yet, my daughter. I need more fresh air.
Inside the mansion, wealth shimmered in crystal chandeliers and marble floors. Outside, the city pulsed with ambition. But Grace's world had narrowed to a single dependable heartbeat. Rose's.
Thank you for staying, Rose.
Don't worry about it, Mama Grace. You're my second mother.
None of the children noticed the slight change in Grace's voice during their monthly calls. None noticed how she paused longer before saying goodbye. Rose did.
Yes, my dear, I'm fine. Rose is taking good care of me.
And so the house remained beautiful, maintained, impressive. But beneath its polished floors and expensive art, Something fragile was quietly preparing to break.
Easy, Mama Grace. I'm here.
These bones argue with me every morning.
Morning arrived gently, but Grace did not rise as quickly as she used to. The once strong woman who commanded boardrooms now needed help sitting upright. Age had begun to press its weight more boldly on her shoulders, and only one person noticed the struggle before it was spoken. Daniel's name appeared on Grace's phone screen later that afternoon. She smiled instantly, like a child given unexpected candy. But the call lasted less than 3 minutes. Important meetings waited. Anita sent flowers the following week. Expensive imported lilies. The card read, "With love, Mom." The delivery man left before the scent even settled into the room. Michael sent money again. A generous amount. More than necessary. Grace stared at the alert notification longer than usual. Transfers were efficient. Presence was not. That evening, Grace's hands trembled more noticeably while eating. The spoon shook against the porcelain plate. She tried to steady it herself first. Pride lived stubbornly in strong women. Later that night, Grace could not sleep. The house felt larger in darkness. Shadows stretched across the walls like unanswered questions. Rose began sleeping in the small chair beside Grace's bed. Not because it was required, but because fear sometimes crept into the old woman's breathing at night. At a business conference across town, Daniel spoke passionately about corporate responsibility and honoring one's roots. Applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed brightly. Anita hosted a charity gala that same weekend. She wore elegance like armor. Her hair flowed in styled waves, makeup flawless under chandeliers.
I used to run these halls.
And you still own them, Mama.
Back at the mansion, Grace struggled to walk from her bedroom to the balcony. The journey felt longer than before. Rose supported her weight carefully. Grace began forgetting small things, where she placed her glasses, what day it was. But she never forgot Rose's name. Not once. The doctor visited quietly one afternoon. His face carried polite concern. Age was advancing faster than expected.
She needs supervision at all times.
She has it. I'm always available for her, doctor.
Good.
Daniel received the doctor's report by email. He read it between meetings. He sighed, then forwarded it to his siblings. Grace overheard Rose crying softly in the kitchen that night. The sound was small but real. Loyalty carries weight too. Grace reached for Rose's hand and held it longer than usual. There was something unspoken passing between them. Something heavier than gratitude.
You have been more than staff.
You are more than employer, Mama Grace.
Outside, the world saw a powerful family name. Inside, one young woman carried its final tenderness on her shoulders, and Grace was beginning to notice everything clearly.
God sees hearts.
Sure he does.
The Hamatan wind arrived early that year, dry and unforgiving. Grace's cough deepened with the dust in the air. Even laughter now exhausted her. Rose noticed the change before anyone else did. That night, Grace held Rose's hand longer than usual. Her palm felt colder, her breathing slower. The mansion seemed to sense what was coming. Grace asked for her writing desk the next morning. Her fingers trembled as she held the pen. Some decisions must be made in clarity before silence takes over. Mr. Aid arrived quietly that afternoon. He removed his cap respectfully before entering her room. The air felt heavier than paperwork. Grace spoke clearly despite her fragile body. She listed properties, accounts, investments. Her voice did not shake when she made her final request. Before Mr. Aid left, Grace handed him a sealed envelope. To be read publicly, she insisted. The lawyer understood the weight of those words. 3 nights later, Grace's breathing changed. Rose held her hand and prayed softly in the dim room. Outside, the city lights flickered unaware. And then, quietly, Grace exhaled for the last time. No dramatic noise. No crowd. Just one witness. Loyalty. The children arrived the next day dressed in grief and designer black. The mansion filled with cars, condolences, and controlled tears. Inside, they discussed catering, flowers, media presents. Rose sat quietly in the corner. Her grief was not performative. The funeral day arrived under a grey sky. Mourners filled the compound. Grace's portrait stood tall beside white flowers. After the burial, Chairs were rearranged inside the mansion. Silence replaced hymns. Anticipation settled heavily in the room. Mr. Aid adjusted his glasses slowly. The paper in his hands seemed louder than the room. Everyone leaned forward. Properties were listed. Accounts mentioned. Investments detailed. The siblings nodded subtly, already calculating. Then Mr. Aid paused. A long, deliberate pause. Even the air seemed to wait. I hereby transferred to. His voice remained steady. But the room trembled internally. Rose. The name fell like thunder.
All assets are hereby transferred to Rose.
Rose looked around as if another Rose might appear. The room's silence turned sharp. Daniel's voice rose first. Pride cracked loudly when challenged. Mr. Aid opened the sealed envelope. She requested this be read aloud, he said. The room fell quiet again. My children, you sent money faithfully. For that, I thank you. You remembered my birthday with gifts, but she remembered my pain. You paid for nurses. She held my hand when I was afraid. You had responsibilities. She had loyalty. Blood makes you related. Time makes you family. I do this not to punish you, but to honor her. When the letter ended, no one argued again. Wealth had shifted, but something heavier had shifted too. Guests began leaving slowly. Whispers replaced accusations. The mansion felt different now. Daniel approached Rose hesitantly.
Did she suffer?
No, she wasn't alone.
For the first time, his voice carried no authority. Anita touched Grace's portrait, tears finally genuine. Michael stood outside on the balcony where Grace once watched sunsets. The sky burned orange again. Rose walked into Grace's bedroom one last time that evening. The air felt still, but peaceful. On the bedside table sat Grace's glasses. Rose picked them up carefully, like something sacred. The mansion still stood tall. Wealth remained, but its greatest inheritance had already been given. Not in money, not in land, but in time. Some children inherit property. Others inherit lessons.